It's funny how certain actions just become pure muscle memory.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you walk into a dark room, your hand instantly reaches for the light switch, you don't even think about it. And for so many of you listening right now, getting from point A to point B has become, well, the exact same kind of reflex.
Right. It's just automatic.
Exactly. You need a ride, you pull out your phone, and your thumb just automatically taps that familiar black and white Uber icon. It's instant. It's thoughtless. But today, we're asking a slightly uncomfortable question. What if tapping that default switch is actually costing you money?
Yeah, that's the big one.
Right. What if there's a much better, much cheaper switch sitting right next to it that you just haven't noticed? Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at the state of the ride-sharing market in Canada right now in 2026.
It is a vital question to ask, really, because that reflex, that muscle memory you're talking about, has entirely rewritten how we navigate our daily lives.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It is. I mean, ride-sharing is no longer a novelty. It's not this cool new tech trick we pull out to impress people anymore. It's just the baseline reality of transportation.
Yeah.
And the financial stakes of that reality are, honestly, staggering.
Because we're looking at a pretty massive industry breakdown today.
We are, yeah. A very comprehensive breakdown of the most popular apps, the alternatives, and the market projections. And the projection for the Canadian ride-sharing market alone is that it will reach $36.31 billion by 2033.
Okay, 36 billion with a B.
With a B, yeah.
That is an almost incomprehensible amount of money. To put that in perspective for you guys, that is larger than the entire gross domestic product of some small countries.
Is spent on moving people around Canadian cities.
Right.
What's fascinating here is how a pie that size changes the behavior of the market itself.
How so?
Well, when you have $36 billion sitting on the table, it acts like a gravitational pull. It attracts incredibly diverse, highly creative competitors who are absolutely determined to steal a slice from the reigning champions.
Right. They want in on the gold rush.
Exactly. The companies we're looking at in these sources aren't just trying to build a slightly better app. They're attempting to completely dismantle and rewrite the fundamental rules of the gig economy.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive, to see how these new platforms are challenging our default habits. But before we can really understand the disruptors, we kind of have to understand the giants they're trying to disrupt, the heavyweights.
Yeah, you cannot have a meaningful conversation about this market without starting with Uber.
The undisputed king of Canada right now.
100%. The source material lays out their dominance very clearly. I mean, they have incredibly wide coverage, a massive network of drivers, and consistent ride availability in almost every major city.
Right, and they have those tiered options too.
Yeah, the flexibility. You've got UberX for your standard trip, Uber Comfort if you want a nicer car with more legroom.
Or Uber Cool for shared trips.
Exactly. Their entire value proposition is just ubiquity. You know it will be there.
And then standing right behind them, you have Lyft.
The main challenge.
Right. They've been operating in Canada since late 2017 in places like Toronto, Ottawa, Calgary, Vancouver. And they're bringing in things like Lyft Business Solutions for corporate travel, plus a rewards program for frequent riders to try and, build some semblance of loyalty.
Yeah, try to give you a reason not to open Uber.
Exactly. In fact, if you look at the source's FAQ about the cheapest alternative to Uber in Toronto specifically, Lyft actually comes up as slightly cheaper during non-peak times.
Yeah, the phrasing non-peak times is the crucial element there.
Right.
Because both of these massive platforms rely on the exact same underlying mechanism to function, which is dynamic pricing.
Surge pricing.
Exactly. Most of us know it and dread it as surge pricing. The algorithm constantly monitors the ratio of people opening the app looking for rides versus the number of cars on the road.
Right, basic supply and demand.
Yeah, when demand outstrips supply, the price multiplies.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where I have a real issue with the overarching narrative around the big apps. People always talk about Uber and Lyft being, reliable. Sure.
And sure, the physical pickup is reliable. You know a car will eventually show up to your curb. But the price is the absolute opposite of reliable.
The financial hit is a complete gamble.
Exactly. If it rains, the algorithm sees a spike in demand and your price doubles.
Yep.
If there's a hockey game letting out, it triples.
Yeah.
Plus, you have all these opaque app service fees that just keep accumulating on the receipt. If you are a listener who relies on ride-sharing for your daily commute to the office, it's a complete financial roller coaster.
It's impossible to budget for.
Right. You have absolutely no idea what your transit budget needs to be from one Tuesday to the next.
You're hitting on the core vulnerability of the giants here. That specific friction point, the total lack of predictability and cost, combined with the frustration of riders feeling squeezed while drivers simultaneously feel undercompensated.
Yeah, nobody's happy.
Right. That's the exact wedge that has opened the door for the next wave of apps. I mean, the heavyweights built the market. They trained us to use our phones to hail cars.
Yeah, we all learned the behavior from them. Exactly. But their business model creates intense pain points. The new competitors we're looking at are specifically designing their platforms to solve those exact pain points.
So let's dive into how they're actually doing that. Because one of the biggest blind spots for the heavyweights seems to be geography.
Yes, the map.
Right, like Uber and Lyft rely on massive urban density to make their algorithms and their surge pricing models function. They need thousands of cars and thousands of riders in a tight radius.
Which means they basically just ignore people living outside of major metropolitan areas.
Exactly.
The suburban and rural transit desert is a real phenomenon. And that geographic gap is being filled by companies that recognize the untapped value of those overlooked markets.
Like Uride.
Yes. Take Uride, for example. It's a Canadian service that specifically targets smaller communities across Ontario, BC, Alberta, New Brunswick, and PEI.
They aren't trying to fight Uber in downtown Toronto.
Not at all. They are going where the big apps simply don't care to go.
I have to ask a skeptical question here, though, because the source material specifically notes that Uride operates in smaller, less dense areas, which means they inherently have a smaller user base and far fewer drivers on the road.
Right.
Doesn't that completely defeat the, on-demand magic of ride sharing? If I open an app and I have to wait 25 minutes for a car to arrive, we aren't talking about a tech revolution anymore. We're just back to the old days of calling a dispatch taxi and hoping they eventually show up.
Well, that assumes the alternative is a 3-minute wait for an Uber.
Fair.
In these specific markets, you have to look at the actual baseline reality. If you live in a town of 40,000 people, the alternative isn't a faster app. The alternative might be a legacy taxi service with 2 cars that takes an hour.
Oh, wow.
Or, walking 2 miles in the snow, or simply not going out at all. For those residents, waiting 20 minutes in their warm living room while watching a little car icon move on a screen, that's a massive life-changing upgrade.
Okay, that is a fair point. When you frame it as creating transit where zero transit existed, the wait time becomes a lot more palatable.
It's about providing a baseline level of access. And Uride does something very clever to build a defensive moat around their business in these smaller towns.
What's that?
They actively support local charities and community programs.
Ah, that is a brilliant psychological play.
Isn't they?
Because then it's not just some faceless Silicon Valley tech corporation extracting money from a small town. It becomes our local ride app. It feels like money stays in the community.
Exactly. They're building regional loyalty that a global giant simply cannot buy with a massive advertising budget. And we see a similar hyper-regional strategy with another app in the sources called Our Hero.
Our Hero. First of all, great name.
It is a good name.
Second, they're gaining major traction in Alberta, right? Specifically in places like Calgary and Red Deer. But they aren't just giving people rides.
No, their unique angle is bundling utility. Our Hero offers affordable ride-sharing, sure, but they also offer package delivery. And crucially, they offer 247 roadside assistance and towing, all inside the exact same app.
That is wild to me. You can get a ride to a restaurant, and if your personal car breaks down the next day, you use the exact same app to get it towed to a mechanic.
Yep. Think about the environment they're operating in. In Alberta, driving your own personal vehicle is still heavily relied upon, especially in the winter.
Oh, for sure.
So by bundling roadside assistance with ride-sharing, Our Hero makes their app an indispensable survival tool for drivers, not just a luxury for passengers. They're capturing the user by being useful in more ways than one.
Wow. So geography and bundled utility are one way to compete on the fringes. But if we move back into the big cities, the disruptors are taking the fight directly to Uber and Lyft by completely changing a totally different variable.
The economics.
Right. They're changing who actually gets paid.
This is the economic gap. Because if there's one thing people complain about more than surge pricing, it's the growing disparity between what the rider pays and what the driver actually takes home.
Yeah, that's a huge point of tension.
The sources highlight platforms that are completely rewriting the financial structure of the gig economy. Let's look at Eva Coupe.
Okay.
They launched in Montreal in 2019, and structurally, They are not even a traditional corporation.
They operate as a cooperative.
Right.
Right. And the source mentions they use blockchain technology to create a peer-to-peer system.
Right.
Now, whenever I see the word blockchain, my eyes tend to glaze over because it usually just sounds like tech bro jargon meant to inflate a company's valuation. What does that actually mean for the person sitting in the backseat?
Let's strip away the jargon.
Please.
Think of their blockchain as a completely transparent digital receipt book that lives on everyone's phone simultaneously. In a traditional app, the corporate office controls the algorithm. They can secretly tweak the numbers to charge the rider more and pay the driver less, and neither party knows what the other is seeing.
Because it's a black box.
Exactly. But with Eva Coop's digital ledger, every transaction is transparent and immutable. You cannot hide hidden fees. Furthermore, because it's a cooperative, the drivers and the riders are actually members who have a voice in how the system is run.
Meaning the corporate office can't just institute a 400% surge price during a rainstorm to inflate quarterly profits, because the members would simply vote against it.
Precisely. The cooperative structure inherently enforces lower commissions and fairer driver pay, which naturally eliminates the heavy punitive surge pricing we discussed earlier.
Which brings that much-needed predictability back to the rider. Like, I know what my commute will cost.
Yes.
And then there is HOVR. HOVR founded right in Toronto. I zeroed right in on this when I was reading the sources because the claim is staggering.
The 100% claim.
Yes. HOVR allows drivers to keep 100% of their fares. 100%. I have to push back on this because it sounds like a utopian fantasy.
It does sound crazy at first.
If a driver takes me across town for $20 and they keep all $20, how does the platform pay its software engineers? How do they keep the lights on?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you'll see it's actually a very calculated mathematical shift in how software businesses operate. HOVR does not make its money off the individual ride transaction.
Okay.
They aren't taking a 30% cut of every trip. Instead, they make their money through a membership model.
Wait, like a Netflix subscription, but for driving?
Exactly like that. Let's do some napkin math.
Yeah.
Imagine a full-time driver for a traditional app makes $4,000 in a month from fares.
Okay, $4,000.
The platform might take a 30% commission, which is $1,200 gone.
Right.
HOVR steps in and says, instead of taking a percentage of your hard work, pay us a flat monthly membership fee. Let's say it's a couple $100s. And you keep every single cent of the fares you generate.
Oh, wow. So if I'm driving full-time, the math absolutely supports switching to HOVR.
It's a no-brainer for them.
I pay my flat software fee, and then my earning potential isn't constantly being skimmed. But how does that benefit the rider?
Well, HOVR is betting that riders are just as frustrated with middleman fees. By removing the need for the platform to extract a massive profit margin from every single ride, the base fare can be more transparent and predictable.
Because the company isn't trying to squeeze margin out of every mile.
Exactly. It aligns everyone's incentives.
Yeah.
The driver wants to drive more because they keep what they earn, and the rider gets a fair price without feeling like a tech conglomerate in Silicon Valley is taxing their morning commute.
Okay, so we've seen how apps like Uride and Our Hero are changing the geography. We've seen how Eva Coop and HOVR are changing the economics.
Right.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What if we change the fundamental definition of what a rideshare actually is? Do you even need a driver to share a ride?
You're talking about the format stretches.
Yeah.
The platforms that are looking at the traditional car and driver model and realizing it just doesn't fit every situation.
Look at Ridea. They're operating mainly in Ontario. It's a peer-to-peer car-sharing platform. You literally rent or swap unused vehicles directly with the owners.
Like Airbnb for your driveway.
Yes, exactly. Think about your personal car for a second. It's an incredibly expensive asset. You pay for the car, the insurance, the maintenance, but for 22 hours a day, it just sits parked in a driveway or a garage doing absolutely nothing.
It's a depreciating asset just sitting there.
Right. It's like owning a hotel, but 90% of the rooms sit completely empty all year, and you're still paying the mortgage. Ridea lets you turn that dormant asset into a revenue stream.
And with the person renting the car, the source notes that Ridea builds 247 roadside assistance and commercial insurance coverage right into the platform.
Which is huge.
It's a crucial mechanism because the biggest hurdle in peer-to-peer sharing isn't the technology. It's trust. You need to know that if the person renting your sedan rear-ends a truck, your personal insurance premiums aren't going to skyrocket.
The platform absorbs that risk.
Exactly.
But think of how perfect this format is for a specific type of listener. If you just need to get across town for a 15-minute meeting, sure, you hail an Uber or a Lyft.
Right.
But what if you want to go on a 3-day weekend trip to a cabin? Or what if you need a pickup truck for 6 hours to move a couch?
You're not going to take an Uber to the cabin.
No, you don't want to pay a driver to sit there while you move furniture. You just need the vehicle. Ride-alike fills that exact mechanical need.
It proves a really important point about where this $36 billion market is heading over the next decade. The market is fragmenting based entirely on the type of trip.
It's not one size fits all anymore.
Not at all. Ride-sharing is no longer a monolith. It's becoming an ecosystem of specialized tools. You see this fragmentation perfectly illustrated with an app called Hop.
Hop, right. Developed by Bolt. They're expanding into Toronto.
Yeah, Hop is positioning itself as an all-in-one mobility app. They offer your standard affordable rides and cars, but they also offer scooters, ranging from budget to premium options, all accessible through the same interface.
Oh, that's smart.
They're recognizing that sometimes the most efficient way to travel 10 blocks through gridlocked downtown traffic isn't a four-door sedan, it's a scooter. They aren't just selling car rides, they're trying to own the entire mobility ecosystem for the user.
So if I'm a listener sitting here looking at my phone right now, how do I actually navigate this ecosystem?
It's a lot, yeah.
It is. I have options for rural utility apps, blockchain co-ops, flat fee driver memberships, driveway car rentals, and downtown scooter hubs. How do I choose without feeling totally overwhelmed?
Well, the source material provides a very solid, objective framework for making that choice. It breaks down into 5 strict criteria.
No, hit me.
First, check availability. It sounds painfully obvious, but you have to know if the app actually has density in your specific area. A blockchain co-op does you no good if there are only 3 drivers in your postal code.
Right. Second,
Compare prices. Because of dynamic pricing, the cheapest option at 2:00 p.m. might be the most expensive option at 6:00 p.m. You always have to check fares across platforms before booking.
which takes like, what, 10 seconds? Okay, third is wait times, I'm guessing.
Exactly, wait times. A massive global network like Uber will almost always win on sheer speed, simply because they have more cars. That matters if you're running 10 minutes late for a flight.
Fourth is safety features. You want to ensure the app has live GPS tracking and rigorous driver verification protocols?
Absolutely essential. And fifth, read reviews. You need to know the actual ground-level quality of the service in your specific neighborhood, not just the marketing pitch.
That makes a lot of sense.
And as a fascinating side note to all of this, the technological barrier to entry for creating these competitor services is actively lowering.
Yeah.
The sources mention platforms like Enatega. This is what we call commoditized software. 10 years ago, building a rideshare app required millions of dollars and a floor full of software engineers. Today, platforms like Enatega provide white-label, customizable ride-sharing software.
Wait, meaning you can basically buy a rideshare app off the rack, slap your logo on it, and launch your own local competitor.
Essentially, yes. The technology itself is no longer the secret sauce, which is exactly why we're seeing so many highly localized, specific competitors popping up to challenge the giants. The battle is no longer about who has the best code. It's about who has the best business model for the community.
Which is incredible news for you, the listener, because it means the power is finally shifting back into your hands. My practical application for all of this, don't just rely on that one black and white icon anymore.
Mix it up.
Yeah. Build a transit toolkit on your phone, keep 2 or 3 of these apps installed in a folder, use Uber for that 4:00 a.m. airport run when you just need a guaranteed fast pickup, but maybe use HOVR or Eva Coupe for your daily commute so you can secure a fair, predictable price and support the drivers, and keep Ride-alike handy for that weekend getaway.
That is the smartest approach to this new landscape. Because prices and availability fluctuate wildly based on algorithms, being an informed multi-app user is literally the only way to guarantee you're getting a fair deal.
Yeah, if you only have one app, you're a captive audience.
But if you have 3, you force them to compete for your tap.
So what does this all mean? It means the era of blindly clicking the default app out of pure muscle memory is over. The Canadian market in 2026 is incredibly rich with tailored options.
It really is.
Whether it's Lyft's reward system, Uride's focus on rural transit deserts, Eva Coupe's push for blockchain transparency, or Ride-alike's peer-to-peer rentals, there are platforms actively trying to serve your specific needs better and more fairly than the giants do. It means better choices for you, the rider, and honestly, a lot more money staying in your pocket if you just take 30 seconds to compare.
This raises an important question, though, something for you to really mull over after this deep dive ends.
Okay, let's hear it.
We know this Canadian market is barreling toward that $36.31 billion valuation by 2033. But as these new platforms successfully prove that you can offer drivers 100% of their fares or give users a real cooperative voice in how the platform operates, are we witnessing the beginning of the end for the traditional commission-based gig economy? Will these local fare models eventually grow so popular that they force the massive global giants to completely tear down and rebuild their underlying business structures? Or at the end of the day, will the pure convenience and 3-minute wait times of the heavyweights always win out over fairness?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. The market is shifting completely beneath our feet, and the only way we get to shape it is with where we choose to spend our money. So open up your app store today. Take a look around. See which of these local heroes might be hiding in your neighborhood. Because it might just be time to stop reaching for that same old light switch in the dark and see what else is illuminating the road ahead.